No, you have to do better than that now. I drove all the way over here from Fontana, California. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, that's a little better. That's a little better, yay. My name is Linda Williams, and I am a community outreach manager with Consumer Action. I'll tell you a little bit about Consumer Action, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about me before I get into today's lesson, which is identity theft and account fraud. Consumer Action is a national nonprofit. What we do is we create consumer rights and financial literacy materials in English, Spanish, and several Asian languages. And what we do is we distribute the information free of charge to community-based organizations, nonprofit, faith-based, government agencies. And we will go out and train them how to use the materials. Our model is generally trainer-trainer model. So what we do is we train advocates that work for community-based organizations how to use our materials so they can take it out into the communities and train their client communities on how to move towards their financial goals, how to protect themselves against identity theft, what are some of the scams that are out there. So that's what we normally do. As a community outreach manager, I travel around the United States. Teaching organizations how to use our materials, providing them with technical support, and then getting feedback from them as to what's going on in their particular area, how we can help them mobilize better. So I'm here today because another thing that I like to do is I like to keep a foot in the community. So I like to go out into the community and train individuals on the materials, so that they can take it back and make changes and positive changes in their lives. So that's what I hope that you would do today. Take this information, learn it, retain it, and make positive changes in your lives. I have some really good information for you. I've been with Consumer Action for 6 years. Before being hired by Consumer Action, I was a frontline advocate with the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. I worked in South Central Los Angeles for 17 years. 17 years helping low-income families, seniors, veterans, homeless veterans, helping them with their civil rights. I was a housing advocate, so I specialized in subsidized housing. So when an individual was being terminated from a housing program, I would be the one that would represent them at an administrative hearing. So it was really, really hard to let go of Legal Aid after 17 years with the Consumer Action. You know, they kept tugging and tugging, and finally I decided to go. I'm a single mom. I raised 5 kids by myself. Yes, I did. 5 kids by myself on one income. Sure did. No child support. Judge ordered my ex-husband to pay $25 a month child support, and I couldn't collect that. But I have a doctor in Atlanta. I have an attorney in Washington, D.C. I have a daughter who will graduate this month with her Ph.D. She's a counselor at Fresno City College. I have a son who is a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps. He will be one of the, I guess you heard that they are closing down the Marine base in Japan. Well, his detail will go in and they will shut down that base. He's leaving in June. And then I have one kid, you know, not motivated. He don't want to do anything, you know. The GED book is too big for him to pick up, you know. He just, you know, yeah, he's trying to, you know, he's still trying to, you know, figure out what is it he want to do. I'm raising his daughter. She's a senior at Oak Hill Academy Boarding School in Virginia, and she's graduating from high school on May 19th. So when I leave here, I'm packing up and I'm headed to Virginia because I'm going to be in the audience. Yay! Yay! The last of the Mohicans, yay! So I'll be getting her out of the way. So let's talk a little bit about identity theft. What is it that you will get from this presentation today? What is the takeaway? What is it that I hope that you would take away? Well, during this presentation, one of the things that you should learn is how identity theft and account fraud happens. You know, how does it happen? Identity theft. How is it that thieves are able to get a hold of our precious information? How are they getting our information? The effects of identity theft and account fraud. What happens when they get your precious information? What are some of the things that they are doing with the information once they get that information? and how to avoid becoming a victim. There is no surefire way to avoid being a victim, but guess what? You can be on guard. And if I scare you today with this presentation, then yay, I've accomplished one of my goals, because this is serious stuff, folks. This is serious, folks, and we're going to talk about some of the impact that identity theft can have on you. And I guess one of the most important things that we're going to talk about today, how to recognize when fraud has occurred. How to recognize it. Why is it important? Because you cannot take the necessary steps you need to take to lessen the impact of identity theft if you don't recognize it when it occurs. And I say this all the time when I'm out in the community and I get this look, but women can recognize fraud when it occurs more so than men. You know why? Because that macho thing come in. I know she didn't play me. I know she didn't play me, you know. But women, you know, you got 1 second, and once we think that we're fooled, give me my money back right now. I want a refund now. So, you know, for some reason, women would take those extra steps. Men will not. Why? I don't know. But that's, and it's not just a Linda survey. I mean, that's just what they said is happening. Now, you should have, everyone should have a copy of the PowerPoint slides. You should have a copy of the PowerPoint slides, and you should also have FTC's fact sheet on medical identity theft. So you should have those things with you, and there are some lines on the slides if you want to take notes. You can, it's in your chair. So yeah. If you don't have a copy, let me know, and I'll make sure you get it. Okay. You know the copy? Yeah. Okay, great. So let's talk about it for a second. What is identity theft? Identity theft occurs when someone steals your personal information, your name, your date of birth, your social security number, your driver's license number, your mother's maiden name. They take all of that personal information and they use it to commit fraud. They use it without your permission to open up bank accounts, credit card accounts, to draw down social security benefits, to get unemployment benefits. Whenever they take your personal information to commit fraud, and they commit fraud without your permission when they take that. So what can identity thieves do with your information? We operate a hotline at Consumer Action. Identity thieves take your information and they buy houses. They get utility services open in your name. They rent apartments with your information. They open up bank accounts with your information. Why? Because they misuse those bank accounts and they leave them owing $1,000, $1,500 to the bank. And guess who pays the price for it? You. Because they used your personal information to open up those accounts. Account fraud last year, individuals using someone else's account. Account fraud is when someone taps into an existing account. Let's say, for an example, you have an account with Capital One. Someone gets your PIN number or gets your card, and they go in and they charge up $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. Then that's account fraud. Account fraud in 2010 accounted for $10 billion. $10 billion in 2010. A consumer suffered as a result of account fraud. There is this attorney in San Diego. Her name is Marla Franks. Google her name. She's one of the leading authorities now in the state of California of identity theft. Why is she a leading authority? Because she was a victim. Marla Franks was a victim of identity takeover. Someone took a blank driver's license, California driver's license, put their picture on it, Marla Franks' personal information on it, took the car, went down to a Ford dealership, bought a red convertible Mustang using Marla Franks' name, got in the car, drove it to her law firm and stole her business cards out of the lobby and became Marla Franks' attorney at law. Google it. When Marlon Franks found out she was $10,000 in debt, being sued by the Ford dealership, and being sued by Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Why? Because the person had rented a car using her identity with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, wrecked the car, and walked away from it. Why? She didn't use her personal information. And Marlon Franks found out about it a year later. Identity theft is called the shadow crime. Why? Because you can be a victim of identity theft and not know it. Not know it. Why? You think the thief's going to open up an account in your name and have the bill come to your house? No. They're going to have it go into a post office box or an empty house. They will divert your mail and have your mail going to another address. Why? So they can open up your mail and get your personal information so that they can commit fraud using your personal information. I kid you not. There are other types of identity theft. Medical identity theft. Medical identity theft is probably the worst form of identity theft out there. Can anybody tell me why? Because it is the only form of identity theft that can kill you. You see, when thieves steal your personal information to go get medical services or to get prescriptions, they introduce mistakes into your medical file. Every time a thief uses your medical information to get some type of medical service, a record is created. Think about it. Am I right? A record is created. What if that person is O negative and UV positive? Hello? What if that person is not allergic to penicillin and you are? What if there's some type of allergies or something that this person may have? So every time that they use your personal information to get medical services, they introduce information into your file that can have a harm for you. Let me give you an example. Let's say someone stole your information and they have O negative blood and UV positive. You're on the freeway, there's a pileup, there's an accident. They have to rush you to the hospital. And all of a sudden they pull in these records because it's an emergency and they pull the thief's record and they give you his blood. What do you think is going to happen? You follow me? Or what if they give you some medicine that they have on file that said that you can take when you actually cannot take that medicine? So what's some of the things that you can do? Here is a fact sheet from the FTC that I pulled down and I downloaded for you because I want you to take this home and read it. You could be a victim of identity theft if you get a bill in the mail for medical services from a clinic that you've never been to. Okay? If you pull your credit report, you may find out, if you look at the inquiries, if someone has been trying to, anytime a medical company is going to charge you, they're going to pull up your credit to look at your credit report. So if you see an inquiry from a medical services on there, there may be a red flag that someone is using your information. Or if you look at your credit report and there's an old bill, because if the thief is stealing your information, guess what? He's not going to pay the bill. So it's going to go where? To collection agency. So there's another way to find out. If you apply for insurance, if you apply for medical insurance or any kind of insurance and you are denied, and you shouldn't be denied, you need to get a copy of that record to find out why you are being denied. But another thing that you can do, you can get a copy of your medical records, and you should be looking at a copy of your medical records at least once a year. You can get a copy of your medical records from your medical provider. If you use the same pharmacy, get a copy of your pharmacy record as well to see if anyone is using your information. And another reason why we need to look at your medical information, because sometimes when we go in and we talk to the doctor, they put down things that we didn't intend for them to put down. Let me give you an example. I've been suffering from something they call TMJ, you know, and I've been flying and it's been like, oh, I thought it was my eardrum first or something. So anyway, I'm sitting in the doctor's office and yeah, when I'm at home, I like beer. I like Miller's Genuine Draft Beer. You know, and I have a beer every now and then. So I'm talking to the nurse checking me in, and so she said, have you ever this is just a question now. Have you ever had more than 3 beers in one day? And I'm like, Christmas, New Year's, yeah. And so I have. And so then she printed everything out, and I'm on my way. She handed me this paper, so I'm walking to the pharmacy, and I'm looking and go, oh, you may have a problem. You have more than 3 beers in a day. And I went back and I said, you need to take this out of my medical file, because when I go for insurance, this could have a devastating impact on me. You see how information can get in your file? So you need to look at your medical file at least once a year to make sure, number one, no one else is using your medical plan, and number two, that the information in your medical plan is correct. Because when you go to get disability insurance or even some type of automobile insurance or long-term care insurance, there is and I'm going to get to it, there is a file out there called MIB. And MIB, whenever you apply for long-term disability, life, long-term care insurance, MIB they will go to MIB to see what information they have on you. And if that information is incorrect, you may get the insurance, but it's going to cost you more money. Am I making sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about identity theft of a child. Identity theft of a child is probably really, thieves love it. Why? Because generally parents are not checking to see if their child has credit. So, and according to the FTC, a child's social security number can go with any name, any date of birth, any age. So the thieves start out with a blank slate, meaning that they can get credit and goods and services for years without, under that social security number, without anyone knowing about it. I pull up this report from the FTC, and according to the FTC, they're saying that they did because the FTC had to testify before Congress regarding the ID theft of a child because it's becoming an epidemic. And during the testimony, they indicated that they had looked up a couple of studies. In one study, 10% of all of the children that they looked at had some type of identity theft protection services. And these kids had houses in their names, they had loans in their names, they had automobile loans and stuff in their names. And another thing about this is most of the time, it's the parents. It's the parents that's doing this. And they don't seem to know that it is a crime, especially in the state of California. It is a crime. I don't care if it's your child. I don't care if it's your child's social security number. In the state of California, that's a crime. That's identity theft, and it's a crime. They found out that it was a lot of parents that fall on hard times. For an example, mother get laid off, she can't pay a telephone bill, her telephone get turned off, so she turned it on in the child's name. In California, that is a crime. And what they also found out is they found over 140,000 instances of fraud per year against children. And the other kids that suffer the most are the kids in the foster care system. Children in the foster care system, they said the identity theft with them is just running rampant. Why? Because their social security numbers are passed on between schools, between social services agencies. It's in the database, and believe it or not, that's where your crooks are. That's where people are getting the information. Where do you think? How do you think George Clooney's information got out there? Did you think an identity theft ran into the hospital and went through the file? No, it was somebody that worked there. When Rihanna, the singer Rihanna, when she got jumped on and her pictures got released, it was somebody in LAPD that worked for LAPD that released that. They got into the file and got that information. Individuals sometimes would get jobs, especially during the holiday seasons, at these high-end restaurants, so that they can do what? Steal your credit card. They have a little thing that's called a skimmer. It looks like a little cell phone holder. But the skimmer, they can take your credit card while you're sitting at the table eating and drinking your eggnog, and instead of taking that check up to the cash register, you give it to this waiter or this waitress. They take that check and that credit card, and on their way to the cash register, and they got all of your information. Why? Because all of your personal information is on that magnetic strip on the back of that card. They got all your personal information. Let's talk about identity theft of a deceased person. You're never safe from identity thieves, not even after death. In fact, the deceased are an irresistible target for identity thieves. Why? Because nobody's looking at their credit report. They're dead. No one is thinking to look at that credit report. So I have a fact sheet here of some of the things that you can do, some tips that you can take to prevent identity theft. But this is generally what happens. Generally, when someone passes on, the mortuary the mortuary will report the death to the Social Security Administration so that the Social Security Administration can flag that Social Security number. But there is sometimes a lag between the Social Security number being reported to the Social Security Administration and it actually being flagged or taken out of circulation. There's a lag. And when that lag occurs, that's when identity thieves and stuff jump in. So what can you do? Well, if you are the executor of the estate or the spouse of the deceased person, one of the things that you can do is you can contact the Social Security Administration upon death to let them know that the person has passed on. You're going to have a copy of the death certificate, and you're going to have, if you're the executor, you're going to have some paperwork showing that you're the executor, or the marriage license, something showing that you or the spouse. And you contact the Social Security Administration to let them know to flag that Social Security number. Another thing you need to do, you need to contact DMV. You need to contact DMV to tell them. Most DMVs have, I know California has a fraud alert department, to put a fraud alert on that driver's license, letting them know that that person has passed on. The third thing that you need to do is you need to write a letter to all three of the credit reporting agencies to let them know that the person is deceased and to put deceased on their credit file. So if deceased is on their credit file, when someone tries to get credit in your name, that will come up and they will be denied that credit. Yes.
So if somebody steals a dead person's ID, who has to pay them? The dead person not going to be affected?
Well, that's kind of like a legal question, and I'm not an attorney. But let me say this: if it's a credit card under the new credit card law that went into effect under the Card Act, the family will not be responsible for it. The debt will die, unless they are on the card as well. If they are on the card, if it's like a joint credit in both names, then yeah, you're going to be responsible. Most instances of fraud, you're protected because on the credit card you have what they call zero liability. So in most instances of fraud, you will not be responsible for if you can prove it's fraud. But the point is getting to the point where you have to prove it. You see, identity theft is the only crime in America where you are guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. So you will not, in the end, be responsible for it. Most instances of fraud, you will not be responsible for, but you will have to prove it. And that's the job. Because it can take, you could spend over $1,400, I'll spend 650 hours trying to clear your name. It can take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of patience. It's going to take getting organized in order to do it. Is there any other questions about that? And you're looking at me like, I can't believe this. I can't believe this.
I just wanted to ask a question. When you mentioned that it's good to get your medical records at least once a year, and like from the pharmacy and from the doctor, they're probably allowed though to charge you a fee for that? Is that right? The only fee that they can charge you a fee, but the fee is probably going to be for the copies. Okay.
They cannot charge you the time for looking for your file. For an example, if they say, oh, your file, like if you go to Kaiser, they say, well, it's going to take us a week to get this file. They can't charge you for the time for looking for your file, but they can charge you for the copies. But you should, and if you don't do anything else when you leave here, go get your medical records. You need to know what's in your medical records. You need to know what that doctor is writing down about you, because it's going to have an impact on you. I mean, we'll go in and we talk to doctors, we say one thing, they hear another. Ask me how I know. You know, because now I'm at, I may have a problem with my beer. Criminal identity theft, yes.
Wasn't HEPA supposed to protect us?
The what?
HEPA? H-E-P-P?
Yeah, HIPAA law HIPAA law allows you to get a copy of your medical records. HIPAA is supposed to protect you from information sharing and getting your permission to share information, but we're talking about what your doctor is writing down. HIPAA can't protect you for that, but under HIPAA, you are allowed to get a copy of your medical records. Now, and the most difficult thing is correcting something incorrect in your medical records. That's going to be a difficult thing, because even after I called the lady and said on the fact that, wait a minute, you give him this paper saying I have a problem, you misinterpret what I said. She could not go back into the system and take that information out. So now I have to go through the process of fighting medical records. So that's criminal identity theft. What is criminal identity theft? Criminal identity theft occurs anytime someone is stopped for an investigation or interrogation by a police officer, highway patrol, sheriff, or whatever, and they give someone else's personal identification information, they've committed criminal identity theft. For an example, let's say I'm driving down the street, okay? I have a warrant, or I have a warrant against me, or I don't have a driver's license or something like that, and the police pull me over. And I give my sister's name. I give my sister's date of birth. I give my sister's address, and the police officer writes the ticket not in my name, but in my sister's name, using my sister's address. I have committed criminal identity theft. Why? Because now I have subjected her, an innocent victim, to the criminal justice system. So what normally happens when they steal because when they get your driver's license information, they get it for a number of reasons, because they can't get a driver's license, or their driver's license has been suspended. So they take your information and they put it on it and put their picture there on a fake driver's license. So now you are subjected to the criminal justice system. What usually happens is they will be issued a ticket or a citation, they tear it up, they don't appear, you go, and then when the time to go to court, what happens? The judge issues a bench warrant. And so now you have a warrant against you. And I'm telling you, most of the time you find out when you are denied for a job or when you are turned down for insurance. Because most employers now are doing background checks. And when they do a background check, that information is going to come up and you're going to be denied that job. Why? Because the employer relied on the information in the background check. I was in a room a couple of months ago. This guy was like 70 years old, and he raised his hand. He said, "That happened to me. That happened to me." And I'm like, "You did?" "Yeah." He said, "I was driving. I got pulled over. I had all of these warrants." And he said, "They locked me up in that hole. And finally they said, 'This can't be you. This just can't be you.'" He ended up having to go to court to clear his name. And clearing your name in the criminal justice system will take a lot of work, because you would have to work with that arresting agency. And what do you think they're going to say when you walk in and say, "This is not my ticket, I'm a victim of identity theft"? Hello? What do you think they're going to say? "Yeah, sure." Get back in the holding cell, buddy. "Yeah, sure." Everyone is going to say that, right? "Officer, you got a warrant, we're taking you to jail." "Officer, I must be a victim of identity theft. It's not me." "Yeah, right." Identity theft is the only crime in America where you are guilty until you can prove yourself innocent. So you would have to work with the court system. And another thing that you should do, once a year, I'm calling DMV and I'm asking for a copy of my driver's license. What's on my driver's license? I want to know. Why? Because I don't want to be driving home late at night thinking I'm getting ready to get a cup of hot tea and watch Twilight, and I get pulled over and somebody lock me up. Check with DMV. Find out if there's any information on your driver's license. If you suspect someone may be using your driver's license, you want to put a fraud alert on it. You want to ask for information on your driving record. Yes.
Is it only the driver's license or California ID as well?
California ID as well. California ID as well. Now they may not want to do it at first. Ask for a supervisor. Go up the chain of command. They must do it. You go in there, they have to give you that report to make sure that everything is clean. Especially if you tell them you think you could be a victim of identity theft. You want to put a fraud alert on your identity card and your driver's license. So let's talk a little bit about how thieves get your information. Thieves get your information in a variety of ways. There's a distinct, they call shoulder surfing. See, I tell people, especially during the holidays, when you go into these stores and you fill in our credit application, be careful because they shoulder surf. They stand back and they take these magnifying glass and they're watching you. They can write down everything that you're doing. When I go to the ATM, you know what I do? If I'm at a store and I'm swiping my card, I'm like this. I kid you not. Why? Because my money looks better in my pocket. I'm broke. I don't have nothing to give nobody. I don't know about you. You guys may have a lot of money. I don't. My money looks better in my pocket than anyone else's pocket. You have to protect yourself. Anytime you're using an ATM or anywhere you swiping your card and you putting that pin in, you had better protect it. You had better shield it. If you have to take something with you, they're going to look at you funny. Yeah, they're going to look at you funny. Let them look at you funny. I don't care. I'm like this. Protect yourself. That's why I'm here. Protect yourself. I'm going to tell you another way that they can get it. How many of you have cell phones? Cell phones is one of the ways that they get a lot of your information from your cell phone records, especially if it's not protected. Why? Look at what's indicated in your cell phone records. People you call, people calling you, all of those numbers, your credit card information, because you're paying it by credit card, right? Your banking information, however you paying it, all of that information, your address, your social security number, your phone records are one of the ways that they are getting it. There's a thing called pretexting, when they can pretend to be a law enforcement agent, or they can pretend to be you and get your personal information. Pretexting, Google it when you get home. Pretexting is one of the biggest crimes out there. Your phone records have all the information. Another way that they get your information is by you, from you. Why? Talking on that phone. I take the train from Fontana to LA every day, and if I was a thief, I would have everybody's credit card information on the train. Why? Because we're on the phone. Oh, my number is 5678. Yeah, push 1. My number is this. We talking on the phone, and we give out all of our personal information when we talking on that phone. Why? The phone is now so convenient. We can talk on it anywhere. We can contact business anywhere, in our car, in line at McDonald's. And folks are listening. Another way that they get your information is on Facebook, MySpace. We talk too much. I was in D.C. for Mother's Day last year, I'm going this year again, and my daughter's like, on her phone, I'm taking my mama here, and I'm taking my don't tell nobody where you taking me. Your husband don't like me. He may ambush me around the corner somewhere. Don't tell nobody where you taking me. But we, all on these social networks, our kids are giving up too much information on these social networks. They're only giving out their information, they're giving out their parents' information. How else are they getting your information? Dumpster diving. How many of you have shredders at home? Everyone should have one. You should have one. All that information coming, what are you doing with it? My mom, 89 years old in Arkansas, what was she doing? She was tearing it up and flushing it down the toilet. And it wasn't a doesn't look, Mama, I cannot replace another sewer line here. So I had to get her a shredder, because that's what she was doing. She called herself tearing it up and flushing it down the toilet so no one would get it. But she was messing up her sewer line because all of that stuff was turning to glue. And so I ended up replacing the sewer line twice, and I said, hey, this is it. I got to get her a shredder. But you need to have one, a cross-sectional, so you can get rid of your information. I kid you not, when you get home, Google dumpster diving. There are clubs out there. Clubs out there that people join to teach them how to dive in the dumpsters and get your information. I kid you not. You look at me like, I do one thing that I can do is research. And I spend a lot of time doing research when I put together these modules. There are clubs out there that teach you how, they say one man's junk may be another man's treasure. Let me teach you how to get down there and get it. That's how they get your information. And another way that they get your information is by a data breach. How many of you received a letter in the mail saying that you were a victim of a data breach? What should you do, the first thing that you should do when you get that letter?
Put a fraud alert on your credit
A
report.
fraud alert on your credit report, ASAP. ASAP. You need to put a fraud alert on your credit report. And if you're not getting ready to buy anything, like in the next couple of years, then freeze your credit file. Put your credit file on ice. It's a fraud, I'm gonna get to that later. Your fraud alert is not your strongest protection. But when you put your credit file on ice, that's your strongest protection. So there's a lot of ways that they get your information. The cost of identity theft. The average fraud victim in 2010 paid $4,607 to clear his or her name as from being a victim of identity theft. And they spent maybe 100 hours trying to clean up your name from being a victim of identity theft. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of hours. I don't have, forget the $4,000, I don't have 100 hours to run behind this stuff, do you? So there's things that you have to do to continue to protect yourself. So let's talk about prevention. One of the ways that you can maybe not 100% prevent, but catch it early, is to look at your credit report. How often should you be looking at your credit report, especially in this economy?
Once a year.
Once a year? Who else?
Or 3 times a year, because I get each of the 3 companies once a year.
Close. In this economy, you should be looking at your credit report every 4 months. Let me tell you how to do it. You start with getting a credit report from Experian. The next 4 months, get one from TransUnion. The next 4 months, get it from the other one. And keep rotating, and keep rotating. Why? Because a year is a long time to look at your credit report. If especially a victim of identity theft, a year is a long time. In this economy, identity theft is running rampant. Why? The economy is bad. Everybody is broke. They're losing their jobs. They're losing their houses and stuff. And they got to have somewhere to live. So they got to steal your information so that they can go and get that little swanky apartment across the way. So you need to be looking at it. And what are some of the things you're going to look for? You're going to look for, number one, the addresses that's on that credit report. Because if you live if you live here and there's a address in New York and you've never had the pleasure, that should tell you something. That's what you should. First thing you're going to look for are the different addresses. If you're young, 18, 19, one of the things that you want to look for is how long they've been reporting on you. Because if you're 18 and they've been reporting on you for 5 years, believe me, baby, you're a victim of identity theft. Because they shouldn't have a file on you. If you're 19 and they say you've been in this system for 4 or 5 years, you're a victim of identity theft. You've got a lot of work to do because they shouldn't have a file on you. So this money. So the youngsters, look for how long that they've been reporting on you. That's number one. But you're going to look for the address. The second thing you're going to look for is you're going to look for these accounts. Any account that you don't recognize. Any account that you don't recognize. And another thing that credit reporting agencies will do is they have a tendency that they would do is they will merge your credit file with someone else's. Especially if you have a common name. You have a common name, like Linda Williams, and there's other Linda Williams out there getting evicted of doing things and they can't find that Linda Williams and they have to live in a certain area, they will link those files up together. So that's another thing that you want to look for. You want to look for the different addresses. You want to look for the different social security numbers. You want to look for the different ways, the variations that they have your name. Those are mistakes. Those are mistakes. Most of your credit reports have mistakes in it. 90% of credit reports are going to have a mistake. So those are some of the things that you're going to look for. You're going to look for public records information, tax liens, anything that says that you've been, in the justice system. You want to look for those things if they're wrong because you want to get them off your credit report. But if you're worried about identity theft, you want to look for new accounts. You're going to look at the inquiries to find out who is looking at your credit report. For an example, if Lone Star Toyota is looking at your credit report and you have not went to get a car, that should tell you something. You should find Lone Star and go down there and say, I don't know who you about to sell this car to. Why are you looking at my report? I didn't authorize anyone to do anything. So you look at the inquiries as well. Another thing that you need to look at is your specialty consumer reports. How many of you have heard of specialty consumer reports? I travel around the United States and I train advocates. And 90% of the advocates that I train have never heard of specialty consumer reports. What is a specialty consumer report? Now, employers, insurance companies, landlords, and creditors, now they have at their disposal individuals who are collecting information on you. So when you go in and you apply for automobile insurance and you fill out this questionnaire, they're not going to take you at your word. They're going to go to a choice point or clue to find out what information they have on you. Why? Because you are a risk. They don't know you. So now what they're doing is they're turning to these agencies that are collecting information on you to determine if you pay your bills, to determine your habits. For an example, I talked about MIB earlier. MIB is a medical information bureau. Anytime you apply for life insurance, long-term care insurance, disability insurance, that company that you apply to is going to go to MIB and say, give me all of the information you have gathered on this particular person. MIB collect information on you, like if you tore your ACL when you were tore your ACL when you were younger, if you are diabetic, if you have high blood pressure. MIB collects all of this information on you and they sell it to insurance companies. Insurance companies use the information that MIB has collected to determine if you are a risk, if they should give you a policy, and how much they should charge you for this policy, or if they should just flat out deny you. But here's the thing. How do you know that the information that MIB is giving out on you is correct if you're not looking at the MIB report? That MIB report is free to you as a consumer. It's been free to you since 2004, but most consumers don't have a clue. So you should be getting a copy of your MIB report to find out what they are reporting on you. Congress changed this law in 2004. Now, as consumers, you have the opportunity to see what landlords, employers, and insurance companies are looking at when they are evaluating you. What creditors are looking at when they're evaluating for you. You have a chance to get a copy of the picture, and if it's not right, to change the picture. Am I making sense? Let me tell you how you can get a copy of your MIB report. In order to get a copy of your MIB report, you can call, and I know it's not in there, you can call You can call 866-692-6901, or you can go to MIB's website. Now, MIB will not have a file on you if you have not applied as an individual for life insurance, health, or disability insurance. If you apply with your company, let's say you work for General Motors, and General Motors provided you with Kaiser, then MIB may not have a file on you. But if you have filed as an individual for life insurance, disability insurance, or long-term care insurance, then MIB will have a file on you. And you need to get a copy of that file. It's free. You can go to MIB's, you can call them up and they'll tell you how to get it. You can go online and you ask for consumer disclosure file. They can follow the links and download the form and send it in. But you need to know what MIB is reporting on you. MIB is selling this information to an insurance company. You want to make sure that it's right, it's correct. There's two other companies. Yes?
What is the number again? Phone?
The number is 866-692-6901.
One.
Yes, 6901. When you get to MIB, they're going to ask you for some personal identification information to assist them in locating your file. They're going to want personal information on you, like your driver's license number, your date of birth. They're going to want that personal information on you. So that's why I always do it in writing, in mail, and I always send it to them certified because I want to make sure it gets to the person it's getting to. Yes.
Will they ask for your social security number?
They may. They may. So that's why I would suggest downloading the form, filling it out, and sending it to certified mail. Yes.
Why is he taking pictures?
Is that a question to me?
Yes.
I'm putting this video up on the Chamber website because I think it's a real timely topic. Not identifying you personally, just want to take a picture of the audience.
I just don't think you should be doing that.
Okay?
Now, regardless to whether you are a renter or you own your home, there are at least 4 companies out there that we are aware of that collect tenant history. Why is this important? It's important because identity thieves, they may steal your personal information. They run apartments in your name. They get utility services in your name. I remember last year, it was in the middle of winter in Atlanta, Georgia. My daughter called me, ooh. I said, what? She said, I got a letter in the mail from the electric company saying that they're going to turn our electricity off because some bill in my name in an area of time I've never been, and the bill is $2,000. I'm like, what? So she said, I'm so mad I want to get in my car and drive over there and sit in front of that house and find out who it is. I said, no. Just go and tell them that you're not told, what steps to take to hold she's a victim of identity. When someone has stole, and this is my doctor, someone has stole her personal information and used it and opened up utility services in the house in another part of town. Like she said, she had never been. She don't know who this individual is. When they steal your information, it's not just to get credit cards, because they can buy them bootleg cards on the black market, 59 cents a card. They use it for other things, to get medical services, to get utility services, to rent houses and stuff in your name, to get that cell phone and stuff that they need that they can't get any longer. So there are 4 companies that we know of. LexisNexis Residential History. It will contain all of the information related to your tenant history as well as background information on you. That's right, as well as background information on you. To get a copy of that report, you call 877-448-5732.
The name of the company again?
It's called LexisNexis Residential History. And I'm going to tell you another reason why this is important. Have you ever heard of the city attorney making individuals move? Because they can rent a house in your name and turn it into a drug house. Am I right? They can rent an apartment or a house in your name, deal drugs out of that house, and guess who the city attorney or the police officer is going to be looking for? You. It's in your name. So this is why it's important that you get a copy of your tenant rental history to find out what's going on. CoreLogic Safe Rent will include criminal and tenant landlord records as well as rent performance history. That's what they report on. If there's been any criminal activity at that house, also the rent performance history, how someone paid rent or something at that particular address, this is what they're going to report on. So you need to get a copy of their report. If they don't have anything for you, say, yippee, yahoo, they didn't get me. But once a year, you should be looking at these reports. You should be looking at these reports. And the number for CoreLogic Safe Rent is 888-333-2413. And here's the other thing. They cannot give you a hard time by getting these reports, because that's federal law. If any agency, any specialty agency, especially one that I provided you the name with, give you a hard time, they are regulated by the FTC. The FTC regulates all credit reporting agencies and specialty reporting agencies. All agencies that collect information on you, they are regulated by the FTC. And they sell that information, they're regulated by the FTC. And they live for complaints. Another agency is called Tenant Data. They provide information not only on rental history, but also what they determine whether or not you're personally suitable for a place. Did you hear me? Did you hear me? They determine whether or not you are suitable to live in a particular neighborhood. I kid you not. The telephone number for them is 800-228-1837, or you can go to their website and download the form. The Rent Bureau, and the Rent Bureau, if I'm not mistaken, is owned by one of the largest credit reporting agencies, Experian. So they receive rental payment data from their national network of multi-family. She first moved into her apartment. To keep her from moving back home, I co-signed, because you know, when my kids graduated from high school, I gave them all a set of luggage. They were going somewhere. They were going somewhere. They all got a set of luggage. You know, it was in the car after graduation. Here you go. You know, they were going somewhere. So, yeah, but it shouldn't be there. Check writing history. Why is this important? Check Systems is one of the companies that report on your check writing history. Anytime you receive a pre-approved credit offer in the mail, they've already looked at your Check Systems report. Check Systems is like a credit report. They will have inquiries that will tell you who's looking at your Check Systems report. Banks and credit unions use Check Systems when you're getting ready to open up a checking account. Why is this important? Because if someone has stolen your personal information and used it to open up a bank account, it's going to show up on Check Systems. It's going to show up, every bank account that you've had open for the last 7 years is going to show up on Check Systems. Check Systems not only will report what bank accounts you have, they will report your check writing history. How often you write checks, how many checks you usually order, how often you use overdraft protection, how often you bounce a check. All that information is going to show up on your Check Systems report. So when individuals looking to give you credit, one of the things they want to do is they want to say, is she managing her bank account? Because believe it or not, one of the first steps to establishing credit is opening and properly maintaining a bank account. So that's one of the things that they are going to look at. So you need to get a copy of your Check Systems report to make sure that no one has opened up a checking account in your name. And this is, let me give you an example of how this can be really important. My mom lives in Little Rock, Arkansas. She's 89 years old. She's agoraphobic. She will go out to the curb with her trash out. She's not going to step. She's not going to step in that street. You know, she's not going to step into that street. She's not. That's as far as she's going to go. So how does she pay her bills? She uses her checking account. A Social Security check is directly deposited into her bank account, and she writes checks perfectly every month to pay her bills. But what would happen if someone stole her personal information, opened up another account at Bank of America, misused that account, and walked away on $1,500 or so on that account? What is Bank of America going to do to my mom's account? They're going to close her account down. They're going to reach in, take the money that they think she owes them, and they're going to close her account down. So what happens now? My mom will go up the store club, she's not going to leave the house to open up another account. What happens? That's why you need to be looking. There's thousands of seniors out there just like my mom. Just like my mom, that this could happen to. What if you in Jamaica getting your groove back, and you take your debit card and you go to the ATM and use your debit card and it says insufficient funds because someone has misused your bank account and the bank closed down your account? I've had clients that tell me that they were in Vegas partying hard and had to hitchhike back home. Why? Because of something like this. So it's precautions you need to take. You don't want your bank account shut down. If you go to get a job, you don't want to have to tell the employer, that's not me. Someone stole my identity, because guess what? That job is gone. Am I right? Okay, so let's talk about...
I have a question.
Yes.
So do you go to your actual bank and...
No, you go to Check Systems. Let me give you that number. Check Systems. You get a copy of your check system. Actually, there are 3 companies that report on your checks, on your check writing. There's Check Systems, there's Scan, and there's Telecheck. Reports from all 3 of those agencies are available to you free. You need to get a copy of those reports. You get a copy of your Check Systems report, you dial 800-428-9623.
Can you repeat the last 4 digits, please?
4623.
Thank you.
Yeah. Scan, and I'll say it over again. Check Systems is 800-428-9623. Okay. Scan is the national reporting agency that maintains a database of all return checks. And it's this, anytime there's checking account fraud, Scan is going to have that information. So any checks that's been bounced or they think have been account fraud, Scan is going to have that information. And you can get the information from Scan at 800-262-7771. If you go through this and you find that you find, fine. But then set up some type of system where you are periodically checking this. They're free once a year. Stagger them, get a couple here, a couple there. In fact, where you should start is with your personal report. And let me tell you about your personal report. Your personal report reads like an FBI dossier. The personal report, LexisNexis is going to have your personal report. And that number is 866-312-8075. Your personal report will have all of the information that I discussed will be in your personal report. All of your credit history will be there. If there's any public accounts like tax liens or anything like that, it will be there. In the personal report, it will have the names and addresses of your neighbors. Yeah. It will have the names and address of your neighbors. It will tell about the community that you live in, the age of the community, how the community make up. If you have any professional licenses, it's going to be listed there. It could even, if you have kids, it could even also have the names and social security numbers of your children. All of that is in your personal report. The personal report is collected by looking at public records, looking at your credit report, looking at what you put on credit applications. I joke when I tell folks this. I say, on my personal report somewhere it says the girl drinks beer. I'm telling you, when I got my personal report, I didn't know my neighbor's name till I got my personal report. It would have your neighbors, your neighborhood, your neighbors' names, their addresses in your personal report. Now, according to LexisNexis, creditors and insurance companies don't get this personal report. Only you can get it. But do you believe that? Because what? some lean green, you can get anything, right? But you start with your personal report. If you have a problem anywhere with check systems, with employment, a background check, anything, it's going to be in that personal report. So if you want to start anywhere, start with your personal report. Look at the information that's in your personal report and make sure that it's correct.
Well, then, if it contains on that, why would it still be necessary to call these other places?
Because the other places are not getting your personal report. It wouldn't be, that's what I said, if you start with your personal report, it's going to show you if there's any red flags. These specialty no, because the personal reports your insurance company can't get, your landlords and stuff can't get. The companies are compiling it on you, but they say it's only available to you.
Okay, so, do I understand this right? If that report, if the personal report doesn't show any red flags, would that mean that the other reports then are okay?
It could, but I would still get them, but I wouldn't rush to get them. I would take my time and get them and pull them in. But no, I would want to look at them anyway.
Okay.
I get a copy of my personal report and I still get copies of the other reports because I want to be sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I want to be sure. I want to, what insurance companies and employers and stuff are seeing when they pull up Linda Williams, I want it to be me, not my evil twin. I want it to be me. So I want to make sure that that picture is accurate. So now this is what you want to do. You want to make sure they have an accurate picture of you. Employment background. We talked about that a little bit. LexisNexis have the employment background history. So if you're not planning on getting a job or planning on getting promoted or anything, you may not need the information. If you are still looking for a job or planning on getting promoted, you want to dial 866-312-8075. And you want to pass this information on to your kids. When I'm with my grandkids, I sit them down and I'm teaching them this information and they look at me like, but I'm teaching them. I'm constantly teaching them and telling them. So for employment history, it's 866-312-8075.
I believe you were going to get us the number for TeleCheck and then...
Okay, I'm sorry. TeleCheck is 800-835-3243. And you have scan.
Yes.
And you have check system.
TeleCheck.
TeleCheck is 800-835-3243. And there is another company out there called Employment Data. If I tell any individuals who are receiving any form of government benefits, if it's housing, Social Security, or SSI, any type of government benefits, then you need to be looking at the employment data report. Because let's say if you are a senior citizen and you're not reporting that you are working, and Social Security periodically run your Social Security number and they see all of this employment activity, they're going to say you moonlighting over at Walmart. So it could cause you problems later on, right? If you're getting Section 8 or any type of SSI where you're not supposed to be working, and if someone is using your Social Security number and they are using it to work, it's going to cause problems for you. So the employment data, it maintains a database on 25 million employees in the United States. And they must give you that information. If they have any information about you working or anything, they must give you that information. Another place that you can look is your Social Security earnings statement. You have to request it. They used to give it to you once a year free. They don't give it out free anymore because they're trying to save money. But you need to request your earnings statement from the Social Security Administration. I do it, I request it every year because I'm still putting money away for my retirement. And every time I look at that earnings statement, I go, I'm not going to make it. I got to put more money away, I'm not going to make it. So, but you want that earnings statement. If anyone that's using your Social Security number and they are working, it's going to show up in that earnings statement. So that's another place that you can check. But in order to get a copy of your report from the employment data reports, you need to call 996-7566.
If I'm receiving Social Security and working, am I okay with Social Security then?
Yeah, you can do that. If
Yeah,
you're
but-
over 62, you can do it.
I don't need to worry about the possibility of someone else maybe using my number?
You still have to be worried about that.
Okay.
But your Social Security earning statements will show that. If, for an example, it will show, if you're earning, let's say, $20,000 a year, and somebody over here is earning $30,000 a year, you're gonna have two columns. It's gonna show that money coming in. It's gonna be more money, when you add it up, it's gonna be more money than you're actually making, and you're gonna know it's something wrong. But yeah, the fact that you are working, you are using it, doesn't mean someone else can use it either.
Okay.
Or they could be collecting, you could be working and someone could be using your number to collect unemployment benefits. That happens all the time. Any other questions? Yes.
Speaking of Social Security, why does our government in their infinite wisdom put your Social Security number on your medical ID?
That's changing. That's changing. That is changing.
It is. Good.
There's been, you mean on that Social Security, that
Yeah.
red, white, and blue card?
Medicare card.
Medicare.
That's changing.